Hello there, welcome to a brand new season of In Case You Missed It. It's a social media show where we take a look all over Chatham-Kent to see all those amazing social media groups, whether it's on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and makes what Chatham-Kent what it is. And there are so many crafts, tons of crafts. In fact, a plethora of crafts. Yeah. And you're probably thinking to yourself, how do I get into the craft business? Well, you could surely start from home, or you can start on this little thing called Etsy. And you're probably saying to yourself, what is Etsy? Well, I'm not going to sit here and try and explain to you what Etsy is. This very familiar face from the mighty CKXS 99.1, Morena McDonald, who does also all of the lovely covering all over Chatham-Kent. And she's here to talk to you a little about a group right behind me, Etsy Chatham-Kent. So thank you very much, Morena, for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. It's really exciting to be here.
So let's just get right into the nitty-gritty of it. What is Etsy and how did it all start?
Right, so Etsy is an online marketplace for people who make, as you mentioned, crafts, but it can be a lot more than that. So people are making products such as furniture and that sort of thing all over the world, including here in Chatham-Kent. And what they do is they open up a shop on Etsy and they sell those products to people all over the world.
That's awesome. So, I mean, you could literally just wake up one morning and go, you know what, I really like to start getting some of my paintings out there or some of my little trinkets that you make, whether it's out of paper clips or anything. So that's awesome. So we actually have our own Chatham-Kent Etsy group here.
Yeah, so I would estimate about 120 Etsy sellers just here in Chatham-Kent, and it's always growing. So I can't take credit for the group's establishment. That was done a little bit before my time. I came on back in 2013.
Okay.
So there's something called Etsy Captains. You're sort of like the leader of the local group. There are these types of groups all over Canada. So we have one here in Chatham-Kent. There's one in Windsor, London, all over.
So what kind of things can you put on Etsy?
Yeah, so absolutely. Candles. There's these things called wax melts too for those little warmers and that sort of thing. We've got lots of baby accessories on Etsy and here too locally. So this is sort of like a bib from Charlotte's Thimble. She's from the area. And scarves as well. You mentioned jam. So we've got Mrs. D's canned goods. Right here is vanilla caramel pear butter, which is actually really, really
cool.
Good. Which is a lot of different things. And then even something as small as these accessories. So we've got this vintage camper. It's done, it's embroidered onto fabric.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it is really cool. And she has a lot of different designs. I mentioned woodworking and furniture. Couldn't bring a table in today, unfortunately, but I do have this handmade pen. So I have two vendors that do pens. This one's from Top Knot Furnishings. I've also got another vendor called Right to the Point. So they do smaller items, which is great for Etsy because shipping, you don't want to have to ship a table. They do.
No, yeah, well.
It's expensive.
Could be an arm and a leg, absolutely.
For sure.
And of course, these are all local artists.
Yeah, all of them, right? So, and then we've also got this, so a lot of sign vendors too.
Oh, cool.
So they're from, not just from Chatham, but Chatham-Kent, right? So some of these vendors are from Blenheim, Ridgetown, Wallaceburg, all over the place.
Yeah, and are there normal monthly Etsy meetup groups? Or like, of course, we have our page here, which always has lots of information on there. Is there a spot where people like to trade any ideas or just say, hey, let's have an Etsy meetup group? Do you guys do that kind of thing?
We don't do that currently. Right now, for myself, I'm focused on running the event, so supporting these vendors by getting them sales. So I invite them to the event, I hype it up on social media, and then people come out to it. People love this handmade culture. Whether or not we do meetups and that is something for the future, I think, as this keeps growing. We're in our 5th year, but as we get more Etsy sellers on board locally, I think that'll be something that we do in the future. So I mentioned 5th year for Chatham-Kent, started back in 2014. So that was an initiative done by Etsy Canada, so the headquarters for Canada. And they wanted to bring those online sales back in person because we see a lot of people shopping on Amazon now and maybe less so in our local community. So they wanted to bring that back in person. So they contacted me back in 2014 for this new idea called Etsy Made in Canada. And about, I want to say around 50 of us from all over Canada went to Toronto and we had a big group meetup, a sort of a brainstorm for what we could see this event turning into. Flash forward to this year, 2018, 5th year. So that's going to be in downtown Chatham at King Street Commons. That's where the mall is, and they've got that outdoor sort of area. And we're expected to have more than 50 vendors. It's the most we've ever had in that small space downtown.
How well has it gone from year 1 to year 5, like just as exposure for local artists and craftspeople?
What I've noticed from the very first event, which had 22 vendors and we estimated 750 visitors, was that this is something that could really grow grow in Chatham-Kent, and you kind of see it grow over the years. More and more people start to realize what Etsy is. It's less about educating the public about it and more about just getting the word out there about the types of products that people can find that are not only made right here, but also you can find handmade goods from all over the world. So if you're like, I want to get something for a friend who really likes things from Japan, you can search on Etsy, you know, sellers from Japan, and find items that are made right there. I think it's been really good for tourism. So back in 2014, when Etsy Chatham-Kent had its first event, it wasn't in very many cities across Canada, but we had vendors and customers from London, Windsor, and Sarnia come, and they were inspired to do their own markets in their own cities. So now we've seen events in Sarnia, Windsor, and London do their own because of what they've seen in Chatham-Kent.
So let's talk about, you know, when you got your first couple of members, you know, now we're at 100 plus members. When you get new members on, how does that make you feel about just Etsy Chatham-Kent?
It feels really great to know that what I'm doing is inspiring other people to sell on Etsy. So I'm an Etsy seller too. That's how I was contacted in the first place. So I make these paper flowers for weddings. So I understand what it's like for people to want to do something different and sell their things online. So when they come to me and say that they want to open a shop or they want to be a part of the event, I think it's really great that the hype has gotten out there and inspired people.
Absolutely. So which segues to my next question. You know, for a lot of people who are maybe wanting to start their own Etsy account, do you have any tidbits of information to get somebody out there to really get them self-exposed, like to some of their stuff on the social media platforms?
Right. My main advice is to just go for it. That's how I started. When I opened my shop a few years ago, I had no idea what to expect. I didn't have anyone teach me how to do it. It was all trial and error. But what it really took was for me to just decide one day that I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
I didn't have any more excuses. I threw those all out the window, like, I can't do it. I'm afraid of shipping. What if no one likes my stuff? I didn't have a sale for the first 4 months. And I just kept going, and now I've had almost 400 sales, and those are all like full wedding orders in just a few years. So, and there's a lot of room for people on Etsy. There are new sellers every day, so there's definitely room for everyone, I think.
So how does one join up with Etsy Chatham-Kent? You know, if they're, you know, maybe they're ready to go all right for September. How would they get on board to helping out?
So they can visit the Facebook page here. It's just facebook.com/Etsy Chatham-Kent. They can send me a message through there, giving me their email address. I'll add them to the list of vendors that I contact for every event. So not only do I do Etsy Main Canada, I do several other events throughout the year, but they're all focused on handmade vendors. They can contact me that way. And in the future, if we do meetups, I'll have their information and can invite them to future things.
Well, that's great, Morena. Thank you very much for coming on the show. Is there anything you'd like to add about the upcoming event, or just in general, maybe something I missed?
Right. So, yeah, the upcoming event is on September 29th in downtown Chatham, as I mentioned. We have a few spots left for vendors if anyone else wants to join. But for anyone out there thinking that they want to start an Etsy shop, or if they even just want to start getting their product online, or even tips about selling in person, I have a workshop with the Small Business Center for Small Business Month.
Oh, that's great.
October. And so I'll be doing a workshop. We're still working on the date, but it's going to probably be beginning of October. I'll post it on the Facebook page. But anyone's welcome to attend that. It's completely free. I'll go over the basics of how to set up an Etsy shop, and then a bit more advanced tips and tricks for those who are already on Etsy and selling quite frequently.
That's great. It sounds amazing, and it sounds like you guys are doing very well in the arts world here. And we always welcome new local arts and crafts. You know, again, if you're at Art in the Boulevard, Art in the Park, Tilbury, you know, you're always going to see one of our amazing local arts and crafts people out there doing what they love. Look at all this stuff. I mean, it's never seems to be a dull moment for you guys. It's like you're going to wake up in the morning and go, oh, I'm going to make this, or I'm going to make that. So that's great. So thanks again, Morena, for coming on the show. And we'll see you all next month for another episode of In Case You Missed It. Take care.